I wish someone would say that. They'd be like, "It's all gravy, baby," and I'd be like, "Fuck yeah, man! There's hope for the future." But unfortunately, it'll just be me. It'll be me, and that means that there is no hope for the future. So heard it here first. RDR, doomsday. Now, honestly, I believe that. I believe that there's some pretty strong signs the apocalypse is now. I think a lot of people think that right now, but I have a pretty surefire indication. The reboot of the series Scrubs, without a doubt, has me walking around barefoot in the yard at least once a day to see if hell is frozen over. Um, because I got to tell you, not super pumped about it. I think I may be in the minority, but I was glad to see it go and wasn't looking forward on the horizon to come back. So just me.
You were glad to see it go because you didn't like it, or the way it
Correct.
ended? Oh, well,
Yes. No, well, I can tell that you
we
liked
might
it.
have to stop this podcast.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for Dynasty domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Decent, doing pretty good, getting pretty excited, I guess. I don't know why that Senior Bowl is like a snake in the grass, man. If I
Yeah.
wasn't looking out for it, it would just bite me. I was like, the Senior Bowl's got to be coming up, right? And yes, it is. It is coming up. So I'm doing good when I can see how much these young men weigh and officially how tall they are. It just really takes me to the next level. So
Yeah.
yeah, it couldn't be better. How are you doing, Christian?
I'm good, man. Season 6 of RDR is here.
Oh,
Pretty
oh,
crazy.
it's
Uh,
nuts. All right.
Starting on officially starting for the new 2026 draft class. And you're right, man. Like the Senior Bowl, I'd argue is more exciting than the Pro Bowl these days.
Oh, for sure.
Um, at least for us, for sure. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into these guys. So if you can't tell, audience, that is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to give you some names and some a brief little rundown of some of the guys that you might want to watch for in the Senior Bowl. See if they can improve their draft stock, or maybe they'll even decrease it heading into the NFL Combine
Yeah.
here in Indianapolis, which I will try to attend again, give you guys some live feedback. That'd be fun. But yeah, I mean, without further ado, man, you want to crack into this? We're doing one guy for each position.
Yeah.
Well, each
We
skill
certainly are.
position.
And yeah, I think that it for me, I like to explore names that I'm not very familiar with at this stage
Yeah.
when we go into the Senior Bowl. Because a lot of times you watch like the one-on-ones and you watch the game itself and dudes will pop for sure.
Hmm.
And it'll give you the intrigue to get you through. So I thought, hey, let's dig a little deeper. Let's see what we can find on some of these guys that might be sleepers. And one name that jumped out at me as being strange and having three parts was Wyoming tight end John Michael Gyllenborg. Um, I saw that he was 6'5", 251, and
Wolf,
I
big
said,
boy.
that's what's up. Let's see what this guy can do. So I put on the tape, and initially I was a little bit impressed. I thought, hey, this guy is smooth. He's got an athletic presence for being that size.
Yeah.
Um, but then, I got into the statistics of it all, and I was like, dang, this guy was not being overutilized. He had 4 seasons with Wyoming, and that's how you end up being a senior. For those of you trying to get into the Senior Bowl, it's a hot way to do it. Um, but the last 2 years, he only played. of 9 games each year, and so his stats were a little lower, and I wanted to take a look at, what the deal was with that because over 4 years he just got over 1,000 yards on 80 receptions, and there were only 7 touchdowns. So like I said, to see him on the field, he's smooth, he's looking good, laying down some good routes, and has decent hands. Um, but then yeah, no production. Got into Wyoming a little bit, and they haven't had a guy go over 500 receiving yards, like wide receivers, tight ends, or anyone the last 4 seasons. So I think that is a kind of a usage thing. So that made me a little intrigued to see if he was more of a sleeper type guy. And I'm not 100% convinced that he's got what it takes at the next level, but I was intrigued just a little bit to see what he does in the Senior Bowl, to see if he can hold his own and draw some targets, maybe get a rapport with a quarterback here overnight. But the PFF breakdown for him, he's tight end 15 in the class at
Mm.
big board 162.
Yep.
So that's kind of crazy to have 15 tight ends in the top 165
Yeah.
on the big board, but he's definitely at the back end of the class. Gonna be an uphill battle, so he's gonna need a really good preparation for the draft. So we'll see how he starts it with the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, he's like you said, he's an intriguing prospect. Obviously, the production you would like to see more. He did have 425 yards in 2024, only 3 touchdowns
Mhm.
though, 7 total TDs. But I mean, we saw not that this is a great comparison, but we saw Trey McBride finally get over the low touchdown hump. But yeah, 6'5", 251. That's a good size for a tight end. It's kind of weird. He runs like Igor, like kind of hunched over, but he's
Mhm.
quick for a tight end. So yeah, he could be an interesting guy. We'll see where he goes and who he goes to. That'll be a huge indicator of if I have any like interest in this guy. And I feel like being the tight end 15 in the class, it'll be like after waivers run in your rookie draft, maybe you got
Oh,
take a
for sure.
flyer on this guy. But yeah, he's an intriguing name. It's always fun to see these like smaller school like Wyoming guys and see what they can do, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of these tight ends aren't seniors, so we got Slim Pickens coming up this weekend, and I thought, hey man, let's
Yeah.
see what the guy from Wyoming can do.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I'll go with another small school tight end. Not as big as your guy, 6'3", 251. That's Justin Joly with one L.
Yeah.
Not two. Don't get it twisted. Out of NC State. This year he had 49 catches, 489 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He had 15 touchdowns in 4 years, two with the Wolfpack and two with Connecticut. And he's on the PFF board at number 86. And NFL Draft Buzz's tight end six. That was the same as PFF had him as well. Digging into him, like he's just a pretty powerful guy, even though, like on the smaller end for a tight end, but it does make sense. He started as a wide receiver. He started at 215 pounds and took a chance adding about 40, a little under 40 pounds, and kind of transitioned to the tight end. And it paid off for him, man. He's really powerful. He's a strong blocker. Now, if you read the kind of write-ups on him and people that are smarter than me, especially when it comes to blocking, people are saying that he needs a little work in some of the run blocking nuance stuff that I maybe couldn't tell you as much. But the effort is there. Like he powerhouses dudes around. It's just his technique, which does make sense, transitioning from a tight or from a wide receiver to a tight end and not really blocking all as much as wide receiver. I'm sure he's still getting used to it. But when I say powerful in everything, I mean blocking, I mean route running. He does not really get knocked off the routes that he's running. Like people will try and shove him and he just kind of runs through it. And he has really, really strong hands as well. He'll definitely go up and pluck that ball out of the air. And he fights for extra yardage too. Like he's just one of those, he's a football player, I mean, I know that's like a trope that is silly to say sometimes, but he's just one of those guys that you think you can tell the Wolfpack down there love having him on their team, and I think an NFL squad will. Now he might end up being like a tight end too, especially early on for an NFL team, just a guy that can get it done when you need him to, but maybe isn't relied on to be the guy. Against Pittsburgh this year is a pretty crazy play. He caught a trick play and started limping at the 25-yard line and still ended up scoring. Just
Huh.
like that old Greg Jennings Madden clip where he like snapped his leg or whatever and put the team on his back and kept rolling. So he's just a tough guy, and I like his play style. His upside, I think, probably will leave some to be desired when it comes to fantasy. But like he's a guy that like if the Packers took him later, I don't think they would. I feel like he doesn't fit their size that they like at tight end. But regardless, if they did, I'd be excited at least to have him on the team. I think his biggest issue is going to just be that top end speed, especially being like a smaller tight end. He just doesn't have that second and third gear that you would really want. But other than that, like I think he can be like a consistent presence in an offense, and I'd be just like Gyllenborg. I would be pretty interested to see where Justin Joly goes. Again, it's probably going to be like a late waiver pickup unless he just crushes the combine and gets drafted pretty early. I mean, at least in For the Belt, we don't see that many tight ends going in the 3 rounds of the rookie draft. It's usually like the top 2 or 3, and then people might take a flyer after that. So maybe he sneaks into the 3rd round, but I'm thinking likely a waiver pickup. But he's an interesting watch, man.
Yeah, he was fun to watch. I think he's got a lot of pop, and he's kind of seemed like a guy that's going to be, possibly, second, third rounder in the NFL draft. So it could get a spot that needs it and a good opportunity because I feel like we saw these past few years that people are kind of turning over the tight end position a little quicker than they used to,
Mm.
and the development is going a lot faster than it had before. They're getting utilized as, design type play usage. And so it really opens it up depending on, like you're saying, where he ends up. So
Yeah.
definitely got to keep an eye on. I give him the nod, Jolly with a single L, if you
Jolly
ask
with that one L.
the
One L
one
Jolly.
L, single L. All right, I'm gonna get into a running back here.
Mm.
I'm going with Virginia's Jamari Taylor, and he's 205 at 5'9", and I thought he was a pretty solid guy. He's got a mixed career. It was his first year with a D1 school. He had been with North Carolina Central
Mm.
for the past several years, which, good for him. That's great
Mm.
for North Carolina Central. But to go from there to straight to Virginia and lead that team, getting 1,000 yards, he had 1,064 yards on 222 carries. So, I mean, he hit the field and took off running. He had 14 touchdowns and only a single fumble. So he was a solid guy. He had 5 touchdowns in the first 2 games and just kept running with it. He had some really explosive games. His average on the ground was 4.8. And I feel like this guy, watching him was really interesting because he had really good acceleration. And his contact balance, I say, is good, but really he just had like this stubborn way of staying upright through contact. Like there were several times where someone would square up and hit him,
Mm.
and like the play would stop, and then a moment later, someone would continue on. And I was like, you never see that. Like guys get hit, they get knocked down, but for someone to hit you square on and you just be like, okay, you should have, I guess, aim for my legs. Cause if you don't hit him below the waist, he just kind of pauses and continues on. There are a ton of plays like that that made him seem really interesting to me. He's
Hmm.
kind of a stockier dude. I expect more than 205, but the 5'9", it just kind of looks really imposing on the field. Like he's
Yeah.
pretty sturdy. But yeah, it looked like he had some good goal line type usage. And this is a guy that I'm going to get deeper on, I think, in our offseason processing because he's at RB10 and 141 on the PFF big board. So really just seeing if I'm looking for him to like own it at the Senior Bowl and like really stand apart from the rest of these guys. So we'll see if that's possible. That national team is a little stacked, if you ask me, when it comes to the running back department. So he's going to have his work cut out for him, fending off some of these other dudes. But I'm pretty excited to see him.
Yeah, I'm checking him out right now, and I can see what you're talking about. He's got that ability to just shrug off contact. But yeah, it looks like he almost stops, but then just keeps going. It's not like a normal trucking. It's like they both just hit and stop, and then he just manages to keep going. Yeah, it's a shorter, powerful, compact runner, which yeah could be a really good asset to an NFL team. So yeah, he's a guy. I mean, he'll definitely be in the tournament. I'm excited to check him out. I need to start making the 16 for each conference there or division or whatever you want to call them. And Virginia being in the Atlantic, he'll probably be a little higher.
Oh,
That's always the the I don't
him
I
and
don't
on
want to shit on our own March
our
Madness
colonial
style
coast.
back bracket, but it does seem like the Atlantic side is a little weaker on balance, especially when Georgia's not good. So, not that they're not good, but there's not a lot coming out. It doesn't seem like. Anyway, neither here nor there. Excited to dive into Jamari Taylor for sure. Yeah, I'll just copy you. I'll go to the running back. I did not go with I went with a name that most people probably know already, considering a lot of people, including myself, are surprised he didn't come out of the draft last year. Tried to go
Sure.
back to Penn State and go after a national title, and that did not work. And he
Not
ended
even
up
close.
hurting his draft stock. I don't know how bad, but like he definitely hurt it. And that's Nick Singleton out of Penn State, running back. He weighed in and was measured at 6 foot 221, so really good
Wow.
size for a running back, in my opinion. Had his worst year for the Nittany Lions, though. 4.5 yards per carry, 549 yards. He did still have 13 touchdowns on the ground. He's just a touchdown machine. I mean, he had 54 total touchdowns in his 4 years for the Nittany Lions, 45 rushing and 9 receiving. So super productive in terms of that. He threw up another 200 yards through the air this year and a touchdown. The 123 attempts and the 549 yards were both career lows for him. And Katron Allen kind of took over that backfield after they fired their coach in the middle of the season, and the interim coach kind of rolled with the Allen with the hot hand there, and Singleton took a bit of a back seat. But if you look at his 2024, 6.4 yards per attempt for Nick Singleton, 1,099 yards and 12 touchdowns, pairing that with 375 yards through the air and 5 touchdowns. He's the PFF Big Board 109. He is their RB6. He's NFL Draft Buzz's RB5. He's had 106 tackles through 4 years with Penn State. That's a really good number, pretty solid. I mean, you're looking at like a little over 25 a year, including some down years. He had over 30 a couple. But what sucks is you look at his year in 2025, and he only had 2 games where he was over 70 yards this season, and that was against Villanova and against FIU.
Oh,
So not really big competition there. But if you do look, he played Indiana this year, and he only got 11 attempts against Indiana, but he did go for 6.2 yards per carry against them and 2 scores, and he added another one through the air. So he really went off against Indiana, and Indiana was allowing the 11th fewest yards per carry this season to opposing running backs with an average of 3 yards per carry. So you kind of saw how he could still pop when needed. Granted, a lot of that came off a 59-yard rush. I won't lie. The first 2 carries he had against Indiana went for losses, and then he kind of went from there. But he did score 3 times, which is good to see. He almost scored on that 59-yard rush, got planted 1 yard short. And you can see why. He's got really good burst and vision. That combination is pretty lethal for him, in my opinion. And he has like kind of all the things you want to see from a running back, like the burst, the vision, the contact balance, the good size, bouncy, decisive footwork. And he reached a top speed this season of 23.6 miles per hour. And at that size, that's really good. So I think there's a chance that Singleton can reclaim some of his draft stock. I don't know if it's going to be in the Senior Bowl necessarily, but I think when he comes to the combine, he could end up being like a combine darling. He just seems like a guy I feel like he's going to get really high in our burst score on player profiler that we like to see. And I think he has sneaky dual threat ability, man. 91 receptions for 901 yards and 8 touchdowns in 3 seasons splitting time with Allen the last 3 years, which is really good and like sneaky productive. So Singleton's a guy that I'm ho hoping that it might benefit that he kind of had a down year because the Penn State were just not good this year, and it wasn't all his fault. Some of it might have been his fault. He did end up kind of getting benched. I think over the last half of the season, he only had like 53 carries compared to something like 170 for Allen. So they definitely went another route. So maybe he is done, but I'm excited at the potential of him sliding into the second, probably not the early third rounds of these drafts, but I'm gonna buy the dip, I think, on Singleton personally.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move. I mean, just looking at what he did in 2024, it's clear. I mean, he's a juggernaut, and like you're saying, 221, that's great size. He definitely got usurped a little bit on the carry game, but as the receiving work showed for itself, I mean, the discrepancy of the receptions was only six total between him and Allen, but the yardage difference was 150 yards.
Oh wow.
So with only
Yeah.
six more catches, he was able to produce a lot more through the air. And as the games went on, his carry numbers went down, but his reception numbers still held strong. So he had that, that second threat as a receiver that you were mentioning. And with the 1,400 yards in the previous season and still having the ability to, on the ground, score 13 touchdowns, be within two of Allen, who had, 80 or 90 more carries than him. It showed that he is a potent back and he's useful in specific circumstances that are appealing at the next level, especially at that size. So I'm happy to see that. I think that you're right. We might see him still end up being I don't know, I don't want to get crazy, but a top five back in this
Mhm.
class.
Yeah.
Um, Even with all the noise going on, I think that's probably an easy sell, and we'll see what happens at the combine. But if he's got speed to match that size, yeah, it's already on tape. It just took a year off, so
Yeah.
pretty exciting stuff, if you
Yeah, for
ask
sure.
me.
Hmm.
I knew you were going to ask me, so I'm going to go ahead and get out there and say it. Um, but I'm going to a wide receiver. I'm going
Okay.
with Jacoby Lane. So this is a USC, the old Central Southern California University. That's how they say it there. Um, this you'll know this team for a different player, not necessarily had Lane as the number one guy. I think that we all are familiar with Lemon and everything that he did. Pretty impressive, but not a senior, so he won't be playing this weekend. And maybe that will give Jacoby Lane an opportunity to stand out a little more. I selected him purely off his size. He's 6'4", 196.
Mm.
So I like the length, and that's sturdy enough at 200 pounds. We'll call it 200 for me to get intrigued. So I went in on it, checked it out. And watching his film was kind of strange for me because I thought that he did a few things well. It's weird if you watch his highlights. It's like, oh man, oh yeah. But then if you watch the game films, it's like, it wasn't always great. The separation wasn't always great. The yards after the catch weren't always great. The catches themselves weren't always great. Um, but then he just laid down these bizarre stat lines where he had 3 games this year over 100 yards, but then like matched it with several games, 4 games this year under 50 yards. And the utilization was pretty similar across the board. He just had a few games where he was getting 38 yards per catch, putting up 115 on 3 catches. So there's some inconsistency that went back even to last year. It's the same kind of thing. He's got like a dozen yards in a few games, but then he puts up, 105 in certain ones. So I thought that wasn't quite sure what to make of his situation. I think that he's another player that will likely get into a little further.
Hmm.
But the what stuck out to me as bizarre or like intriguing is that 2024 last year, prior to this past year, he had 12 touchdowns on 43 catches and only 500 yards. So it's like, well, obviously he's good as a red zone threat, but then you move forward to this year, only had 4 touchdowns, just about the same number of receptions, but the yardage went up to about 750. So he's kind of changing the way he plays a little bit, plays outside. It seems like he's available. Obviously, he's playing second fiddle to Lemon on this team. But I just want to see if he can be the player that had the pop games or if there's not enough consistency, right? Like, did he benefit on those games where there wasn't enough defensive depth to cover him and Lemon? Because the stats do complement, like he has good games when Lemon doesn't, and vice versa. So I want to see if he can stand on his own this weekend and see how he does at the Senior Bowl. I watched the one-on-one drills from earlier today, and I wasn't super blown away by Lane, but I do think he has potential to get some more buzz as this wide receiver class seems to be kind of high end with a bit of a drop off. He's the wide receiver 19 on the PFF big board, but still at 123 overall. So I think he's going to get an opportunity. I'm just really just not damn sure. Like nothing solid jumped out as like, I usually find something I love about these guys. And for him, I'm just still scratching my head on it.
Yeah, I mean the size alone makes him a really interesting prospect, and then you throw on some highlights. I'm watching the 2024 highlights now. He has
Hmm.
some pretty circusy catches, going up and getting the ball on the sideline, handed touchdowns out the wazoo, it seems like. So yeah, he's an intriguing prospect, obviously being overshadowed by Lemon. But we're gonna have to just see what happens with him because I mean he's a guy that could pop. I mean, I remember a guy of similar height ended up popping MVS during when he got drafted because of his size and speed combination. I don't know where Jacoby Lane's going to come down speed wise, but if he can add that to his repertoire or like show that at the combine, I think some people could get pretty excited about his combination of skill sets.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely intriguing. I just, like I said, I saw enough of both sides that I'm just
Yeah,
not sure.
that's fair. I'm gonna not follow you this time because I
What?
don't want to end talking about a quarterback. It just feels gross and icky to me. So I'm gonna get my quarterback out of the way here. I just don't like this quarterback class as a whole.
Sure.
I don't think it's very good, and I'm not gonna be excited about it. I mean, maybe somebody will turn my head other than Mendoza, but. I'm going to talk about Grant Nussmeier out of LSU quarterback, listed at 6'1", 202 pounds. Had a down year this year. Another guy that probably should have come out after he had 4,052 yards and 29 touchdowns in 2024. Decided to come back. He goes for 1,927 yards for 12 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in a down year for LSU. He's on the PFF big board at number 80. NFL Draft Buzz is QB3. I think he was the QB4 for PFF. And like there are some things to like about Nussmeier. I do think he has arm talent. He's got quick releases, and he really like drives the ball to people. You can tell that he really kind of understands how to play the position. I think he's really good at RPOs. He has that ability to like sell the run really hard and then just kind of rip it out of there really quick. Um, but there's some bad as well. I mean, he's aggressive, both good and bad. Like you look at his interception numbers and it's not crazy. He did have like 12 in 2024 when he had a lot bigger numbers just overall. But he tries to force the ball in there sometimes, and it can end up as an interception or at least a bat down. But then other times he can force it in there and make a good play. I do think he can has a bit of a tendency to stare down some receivers every now and then. One of the examples, he made like a beautiful rainbow throw against Clemson to the front corner of the end zone. That was like a perfectly dropped ball. And I was watching the All 22, so I don't know. I think it got ruled incomplete. They didn't really show the replay on the All 22, but they went back to where they were, so I'm assuming it was incomplete. And he followed that pass up with like staring down double coverage and throwing right to it. And it it didn't end up being an interception, but it was like, dude, what were you looking at there? So there's some to like and some not to like with Grant Nussmeier, in my opinion. Some of his biggest issues to me, he has a smaller frame. Like I said, 6'1", 202, and he was getting beat up in the SEC. I'm a little worried that that's gonna translate even worse when he comes to the NFL. Depending on what team he's on, if he starts getting crushed by these 300-pound defensive linemen, I don't know if he's going to be able to stand up against that. And then, like, I think his escapability is also an issue when it comes to that. Um, he had, he's just not very fast. He does seem to have a good instinct for like when to dip out of the pocket, but he's not getting anywhere when he does it. You know what I mean? And that issue is also only going to be compounded when he gets to the next level. Like, I mean, he's being chased down by defensive linemen that aren't presumably going to be as fast as the regular uh, competition he's going to face at the NFL. So I gotta say, like after watching, I mean, we've only started doing these profiles, started digging into these guys, so I don't want to make a final ruling on them yet. I came away
Yeah.
like fairly nonplussed about him though, just kind of like not really excited, a little confused. And I just think he's benefiting from a weak QB class. I won't go as far as to say it's going to be like another Kenny Pickett class because we are going to likely have a number one overall QB. But I could see the QB2 battle being like fairly weird and confusing, even though a lot of teams do need quarterbacks up at the top of the draft.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is kind of crazy. He was supposed to be like the favorite for the Heisman, right? Him
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that Klubnik guy, and it's like, man, they really fell off this year. Huge fallbacks from the 2024 year. And you're right. I mean, he's going to get a chance somewhere because there's more than five teams that need, to change up their starting quarterback room. So he's likely to get an opportunity. But yeah, not too thrilled to see how it goes. But I've been wrong before. I'll be
Oh
wrong
yeah.
again. I'm going to tell you guys that I'm about to fill your head with some wrong information right now because I'm going with Taylen Green. This is a quarterback for Arkansas, and I'm purely going off the size here. I saw these weigh-ins and I just blindly picked off of the sizes, and he's 6'6", 229, and I know he's not going to be a top quarterback in the NFL. But I was like, this guy is big as hell. I gotta check out them stats. And you're talking about Nessmeyer, who had a net negative 153 rushing yards for his 5-year career. I'm going to call it 4 years for Green. He managed to get about 2,400 yards
Hmm.
and 35 touchdowns. So that size translated to a strong rush ability. which peaked here in 2025 with Arkansas. He had 777 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. And then last year he had about 600 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns as well, but it was 156 carries. So the volume is insane. It's kind of the point where it's kind of a little disappointing. His rushing average is like 4.7 yards. So he's just doing it constantly. But when you watch the film, I see these stats, I see the size, I want to see what's going on. I saw the passing numbers. I thought they were respectable. He's right around 2,700 this past year with 19 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, and that's pretty consistent with the previous year. But then when I watched the film, I was a little impressed to see he's got like some pocket presence. I wouldn't say like he doesn't have good footwork necessarily, and his throwing mechanics, his mechanism is a little off. But I thought he had good presence. He was really good in decision making, kind of like multi-read guy. He wasn't just snap and run. The scrambles were nice, like getting outside and really taking his time. So he just had a balance between running and passing where he could do either successfully, that gave him the freedom, the flexibility, the respect to the defense to really sit in the pocket and process. And I thought he did a good job. It's kind of sad though when you really break down the numbers for 2025. As I mentioned, he had 19 touchdowns passing. 10 of those came in the first two games, and those are like your exhibition games. It wasn't anything necessarily uh, competition level that would be impressive. So after that, he had a 10-game losing streak with only 9 touchdowns through the air and 9 interceptions to go with it. And I think, that obviously is a red flag. But as I dug into some of these win-loss records and the numbers, a lot of these were single score games where the other team was putting up a lot of points. So I don't know if I can necessarily dog on him. He's still putting up 200-yard plus passing, kind of tapers off through the end of the year when he starts to lean more on his rushing ability. But I really enjoyed watching the game film against Ole Miss. This is the third game of the year. He's kind of coming off those 10 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. He's kind of feeling himself. Ole Miss, as we know, it was a playoff team, a good team that everyone I think was a little surprised they went down as quick as they did in the playoffs, the way they were playing. So I was surprised to see that they only beat Arkansas by 6 points, and this guy was really just putting it all out there. He had 300 in the air in this game and 115 on the ground. And at the 2 minute mark, he's driving, to score to win, and his wide receiver fumbles the ball. So
Oh,
that was kind of heartbreaking. Like he's putting it all on his back, and he's like driving against all odds to beat Ole Miss, and then yeah, a fumble cost them the game, 6 point loss. They lose the next 9 games, and basically have an entire losing season. But this guy, I don't know, man. He's got a better arm than I expected, and I thought his processing was better than expected. And he obviously has, I mean, the physicality and the ability as a runner. So I doubt we're going to see anything from him, but I couldn't pass him up. He's the quarterback 12 on the PFF big board, ranked there at 216 overall. So could be the last time you ever hear his name.
yeah, you never know. I mean, these guys, these dual threat quarterbacks are always worth checking out in terms of fantasy because not saying anybody's going to be the next Lamar Jackson or anything, but they
People are
even
looking.
they're looking, and even if they pop for 1 year, you could use them like Justin Fields, QB9 1 year, and we saw how, I mean, his career may not be over, but it's not looking great. And obviously, he was a much higher end prospect than Taylen Green is here, but you know what I mean. Like, if you have him and you take a flyer on him, and whatever team takes him, their QB1 gets hurt, and then they start converting their offense to like a dual threat offense, even if they don't win a lot of games, you could still score a lot of fantasy points just because this guy can run and throw the ball. And yeah, like watching it, I kind of sped up to see some of the old Miss stuff. Like I see the strange throwing motion that you're talking about, and it's it's always weird seeing guys that are 6'6" run, just look like deer.
It doesn't look as good as it is.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he's got some juice. I'm intrigued to kind of dig into him and see what he has and see if there's any chance that he could be any sort of value at the next level.
Do it.
Uh, all right, I'm gonna get into my wide receiver here, ending on a little bit higher of a note. I'm gonna talk about Kevin Coleman Jr., wide receiver out of Missouri. He's a smaller guy, weighed in at 174, clocked at 5'10". He had 66 catches for 732 yards and a touchdown. In 2024, he was on Mississippi State's team, and he had 932 yards and six touchdowns. He's been at three different Division One schools, Mississippi State, Missouri, and Louisville to start. And then his freshman year, he was at Jackson State, where he won the Southwestern Athletic Conference's Freshman of the Year award.
Mm.
He's on the PFF big board at 182. He is NFL Draft Buzz's 21st ranked wide receiver, so definitely a sleeper here. But he did have seven. He was seventh in missed tackles force in this class, in this wide receiver class with 18. And he was first in contested catch percentage. He only had 11 chances, but he caught nine of them, so 82%. And you can see that when you watch his tape. He's got really strong hands at the catch point. Like he is a smaller guy, and I do think he can get out physical. He gets pushed off his routes sometimes, but he does fight for the ball. He's a fighter just wherever he's at, even in run blocking. Like he squares up to these blocks, and you see him get ready for it, and he will punch people. It doesn't always work necessarily. Like I said, he's a smaller guy. Sometimes he just gets run through, but he's not afraid. He's another one of those just square, straight up football players, and he's gonna be nasty and try to square up with the best of them and the biggest of them. But that is his main drawback. He's just a smaller guy. He's gonna have to find a niche in the NFL and kind of make that work for him. But he's also nasty with the ball in his hands. Like I said, seventh in missed tackles forced. He has that just ability to like catch the ball, land, and just immediately pop and move. And he can just shake off multiple defenders every time he catches the ball. It's pretty fun to watch. He was 16th in yards after catch per route this year, so still pretty good. I was expecting it to be a little higher, to be honest. And he does have some smooth routes. It's nothing like I don't know. It's not these like eye-popping routes that you see from I don't know recently, like a Lad McConkey or like a Garrett Wilson or something like that, where they're just so crisp and just making guys trip over themselves. But it's like this savvy sort of fluid route running that just seems to like he just ends up open a lot, and he understands how to do it. You can tell. He's also really versatile. They lined him up. The Tigers lined up Coleman in the backfield a lot. They did some trick plays with him. They did motion with him. You name it, like, and he was there for it. He was, and the motion was like some of this fun motion where it's like, oh, he runs out to the right and then runs behind the tight end and kind of stops and then runs really quick to the left and ends up catching a touchdown because the guy can't keep up with him off the left side. Um, the thing I'm worried about with him is honestly just his upside. Like as much as I like a lot of these things that he does, he doesn't seem to have like a game breaking over like trait. You know, there's nothing that I can look like he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the best route runner in the world. His size is obviously an issue. But he's just solid, you know, like and solid not in a way of like, I don't know, like a Michael Pittman where he's slower and whatever, but solid and big. It's not that kind of solid, but it's just like he is where you need him to be and he's going to make a play. But I don't know that you can build an offense around him necessarily, at least not at this level. The Tigers did it fairly decently, I guess, last year. I just see like his upside being like a wide receiver too in a gadgety type offense. So that's my worry in terms of like fantasy for him. But he's fun, man. He's a fun watch. I'm kind of excited to dig into some more of his tape because even if I end up thinking like, I don't know if I buy at him at the next level as like a fantasy producer, I'm just gonna be excited to watch because he can do some fun stuff.
Yeah, I was watching the on ones, and he was a guy that
Yeah.
stuck out
Hmm.
as like super scrappy,
Hmm.
um, and had that speed and was just agile, just a kind of a little guy
Yeah.
out there. But some of these bulkier dudes, we got like a weird size spread here
Mm.
with the height, but some of the like the bigger guys. We're getting their lunch stolen by the DBs, but particularly Coleman Jr. And then Cyrus Allen, who's a Cincinnati wideout. They're both like 180, 5'11". They were just kind of like doing their own thing
Hmm.
and cutting their own paths and getting clean separation in the drills when other folks weren't. So definitely caught my eye. I'll definitely be looking for him on the American team here
Hey.
coming up the Senior Bowl. But yeah, without a doubt, keeping an eye on this
Yeah.
guy out of Missouri.
Should be fun. Yeah, for sure. Well, all right. There you have it. In our little lull period before the Super Bowl, here are some names that you can maybe pay attention to during the Senior Bowl. But that wraps us up for today. So until next time, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, enjoy yourselves.
I took a lease out on you.